I'm making this video today with absolutely nothing particular in mind, other than it's been a couple weeks since I made my last video. And so I kind of wanted to touch bases with you. I don't have that many people, but maybe the people that do look forward to these videos want some sort of contact. I know I do. I like to have some sort of contact with you. And so I'm just going to randomly talk about stuff with nothing in particular order or anything like that. I think for starters, what I'd like to say is I've been doing this an awfully long time, spiritually speaking. And I think the point I'm trying to make is, where do you go to get accurate information about anything? For instance, you could say, who's the best basketball player in the world? Somebody is the best in the world. So my guess is if you ask that particular person, you're going to get a pretty accurate answer to your question about basketball. It may not satisfy you, but you can rest assured that it's the best available information in the world. You can do that with canoeing. You can do that with construction. You can do that with electrical work. It really doesn't matter what the subject matter is. And usually when you ask these people, there's some sort of a basis for giving proof that they know what the hell they're talking about. They have degrees hanging on the wall. They have accomplishments that other people recognize as being valid. But when it comes to spirituality, that isn't there. I know that it seems like it should be there. I know that most people think that it's there. In other words, when you start your spiritual path as a child, for instance, you look up to the leader of the particular church you're going to, and you figure that's the person, that's the authority that's going to give you the correct information. And of course it never is, because as you continue in life, you'll realize no fault of the person that you looked up to, that particular person didn't have the greatest information available to them. And furthermore, they had to work for a living, or they were a mother or a father or whatever. They had other things in life that required their time. If you're from India, for instance, maybe you have a particular guru that you look up to. But that's not really valid either, because they don't have life experiences to go along with their spiritual teachings, for instance. And what I'm referring to are these child spiritual people that were groomed from either before birth or shortly thereafter. And so it's preposterous to think that this particular person, unless you want to have belief in fairy tales and shit like that, there's no way that that individual is going to have the spiritual guidance and information that you can rest upon as being accurate. Their information comes to them no different than anyone else. They read it in a freaking book. That's where they get their information. So why are you looking at a human being for some sort of guidance in spiritual things if you can get it out of a book? You might as well just use a computer. It's the same thing. So what are you going to do? For me, let me tell you the process I went through, because you are going through the same thing in life. So the process I went through started when my grandmother used to talk to me about religion. I was, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years old when I started to talk with my grandmother. I couldn't talk to my mother or father because neither one of them were involved in any way, shape, or form in religion, spirituality, or anything like that. And so my grandmother would talk with me occasionally. And then as I got older, I just studied on my own. I had no other way to get the information. All I had was a Bible, and because of my dyslexia, I wasn't even able to read very well. And so I did the best I could. And then about the time I got married, I was 20 years old. I had already gone to church a few times, but I was not, when I say a few times, I mean I occasionally went to different churches and stuff like that, but I was never comfortable going. It was extremely uncomfortable. But I thought that's the only place for getting more than what was in the Bible that I actually had. And so when I got married, I started to go to church with my wife every Sunday and studied and did everything I could. And each time you get these plateaus, maybe a couple of years go by and you reach a plateau where you just can't seem to break through. You can't get anything else. And then you finally break through, and time after time after time. Well, this went on for me till today, basically. And why am I rambling on about this? I'm trying to make a point that if I am intelligent enough to have been a firefighter, retired career firefighter, and as you know that you have to be intelligent enough to pass the test. You're competing against thousands of other human beings, men and women. It isn't easy to get hired. It isn't easy to remain hired. And so if I did that, that means I have an intellectual level, or at least an IQ sufficient to do that, which means I'm not stupid. And then I built homes and all of these sorts of things throughout my life. So as a human being, I think that I'm at least above average in regards to intellectually being able to solve problems, to dig to the bottom of subjects and trying to understand certain things. And I have been doing this my whole life. It's not like I went to college for 4 or 5 years to get a degree in religion or something like that. No, I've spent an entire lifetime doing this. I have, at the bare minimum, 60 years of pretty solid efforts on trying to study and to get to the core of what spiritual truth is. And then combine that with, this is where you actually have to believe me because there's no way to prove it. But then you combine that with an advantage that, as far as I'm aware of, very few people in history have ever had it. The advantage of having real spiritual input from the Creator God. Now, I know there are literally millions upon millions of crackpots out there claiming to have spiritual input and stuff like that from the Creator. But you listen to them, and in short order, you figure out that they might be, or in most cases, they are good people, but they are absolutely out of their fucking minds. They are delusional. They don't know what they're talking about. If you listen to them on a subject or whatever, and it's all emotional crap, it really doesn't get to the core of what reality is. And but they capture a lot of people in their fanaticism, and that's true with every teacher in the world that I'm aware of. You get to a certain level, and you can't get above it. It's like your brain is a supercomputer, and you have absorbed everything that has ever been written throughout the history of mankind, and you assimilate that in your brain and in your awareness and in your knowledge, but that only gets you as high as what is known in the world. And then you have to go beyond that if you want to know even more truth. And I don't know many people throughout history that has ever gone beyond it. I have, but I don't believe it has. I don't know the reason why that has happened for me. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'm a super wonderful person that deserves to have intervention from God in visions and revelations to give me the truth that I have. I honestly do not know why that has happened. Do I love God? Yes. Do I love God profoundly? Yes. But so do millions and millions of other people in this world. So honestly, I don't know why it's happened to me. But it has. And it has given me information and knowledge that isn't available in the world today. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, at one time, I think I've told you, but I'm going to reiterate, maybe 10 years ago, I wasn't patting myself on the back thinking I'm the all great and mighty knower of spiritual truths that nobody else in the world knows, and I'm so good, blah, 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 blah. No, I didn't think any of those thoughts. But I was curious about that type of an attitude. And God gave me a revelation that said to me personally, John, you may have a greater knowledge of spiritual matters than anyone in the world, but it doesn't matter. It isn't that important in the scheme of things. In other words, you live your life here in this physical plane of existence, and to think that you're not going to have the same knowledge that I have in the life hereafter if you live a decent life and everything is ludicrous. Of course you're going to have it. Just because I have it here doesn't mean you're not going to ever have it. Meaning, what God revealed to me was, John, there are millions of people on this planet that are really good in their heart and in their soul. And they are busy with trying to maintain life. There are women that are raising a family and doing their best, and it is just fucking hectic for them to maintain their motherhood and getting along in the world and everything else. And there are people that live in god-awful parts of the planet where there's no modern amenities and stuff like that, and they're doing the best they can. And you only live so long and then you die. And so these people are spiritual giants in that they are good human beings. They came here, they lived in this reality, and they did the best they could. And the best they could was damn good. I mean, like if God were in their shoes, given the disadvantages that they had, God wouldn't have done any better than them. That's what I am saying. I am saying that to be one with God, you have to be as good as God. But what does that mean to be as good as God? It means that there are many people in this reality that you might look at and go, well, they're no big special spiritual giant or anything. Look at that person. But in fact, they are perfect given their proclivities, given the brain that they've been blessed with and or not blessed with, and the situation in which they grew up in. So don't get this idea or attitude that you have to know everything there is in the world to know spiritually. Do I know more than anyone else on this planet, spiritually speaking? Probably, but I am not sure if I do. I have never seen a YouTube video, and I've seen them all that exist that I'm aware of. I've never found anyone with more information than I have, but it isn't by accident. I have prayed to this God, the God that Jesus prayed to. I've prayed to this God for at least the last 40 years, begging on 100 times a day that this God would open the doors for me to understand the spiritual mysteries of everything in existence that God has created, but for only one reason, and that is because I'm curious. I'm curious, but not just curious. I love God. I absolutely love the idea and thought of a reality or an existence that isn't like this reality or existence. A reality and existence where you can have a lack of hatred, a lack of harshness, a reality of love and compassion, where you can absolutely hug anyone that you come in existence with, and they will love you in return as much as you love them, without any weird kinky shit going on. And so I have prayed and have studied, and every time I open a book, regardless of what book it is, I pray to God that the mysteries of whatever is contained in that book would come to me and to help me to understand things. Okay, but in the end, big deal. What does it mean? It means that there are so many, I have noticed so many people, there are a bunch of people out there that are probably similar to me, that are trying to teach spirituality, but I can judge them based upon what are they doing it for. Most of them, and I do mean most of them, the vast majority, well over 90%, are doing it for money, or they're doing it for power. It's easy to judge and figure that out. Just research them. Find out on their website. And I know that the answer comes back and people say, well, because you have to have a living, you have to feed yourself, you have to be able to survive somehow, so there's nothing wrong with making money on spirituality. Yeah, well, I think there is. God has revealed to me that you don't need to make a dime on spirituality. And in fact, if you do make a dime on spirituality, that's a pretty good sign that you are not a true prophet, a true guru, a true follower of God. If you make any money on it, that is a good sign that your whole heart and soul is not into it for the right reasons and purposes. And you could argue the point that, well, then how are they going to be able to afford cameras or whatever? Well, they're going to work their asses off doing some sort of a job to make money. It isn't going to be through the selling of spirituality. I feel very strongly about that, and for a good reason. But am I coming down hard on people that do make money on spirituality? No. There's nothing wrong with making money on it. Just recognize it's no different. That human being is no different than a book. They are a stepping stone. Judge them by their heart and what's in their soul. Try to do the best you can and listen to them. But recognize you're not going to get the absolute truth from them. You're not going to. Why? Because they don't have it. It's no fault that they are, it's not like they are being hateful or demonic or anything like that. They just don't have the information. They're never going to get the information. God isn't going to give it to them. But that doesn't mean they don't have a vast amount of spiritual knowledge that you should listen to them. Don't follow me and expect that you're going to get something following me or listening to me that is going to be the end all be all, because it's not going to happen. Because if you were to ever get any spiritual knowledge or wisdom from me, it's actually going to be harmful to you if you do not cultivate and create that direct link to God that I have. If you don't do that, it's going to be harmful to you, because you will not be able to sustain your ability to, shall I say, float. In other words, if you were to see me without this physical world in existence, from an enlightened point of view, I would be floating right now. And I would be able to float anywhere I want to float. That would not happen with you or anyone else that I'm aware of in this world. They would fall and plop. They would either hit a solid surface, or they would look for a rope to climb up, but the rope isn't attached to anything, so the rope just will pull down and plop in front of them. You have to have a link to God. If you don't have this link established, you cannot climb out of this physical existence reality. I am no longer attached to this physical reality. Yeah, my physical body is, but I am not. And it was super, 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 super fucking hard to get that spiritual link. And I kind of laugh because I'm using extreme profanity in my language that would normally turn human beings off and go, well, he can't be a true spiritual leader. Look at that filthy mouth that he uses. Maybe I use it because I'm trying to scare people away that shouldn't be listening to me, because I don't want them to be damaged, spiritually speaking. What I mean by damaged is, if you gain a certain amount of spiritual knowledge and wisdom and stuff, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm holding back. It's not like I'm trying to hold it all tight in and go, well, I don't want to give them this truth because if they have it, oh my gosh, it might hurt them. No, I'll give you every fucking thing I have. But I teach in such a way that I scare most people away. I even wonder about female people that might watch this video. I don't know how I come across a female. Let me express something crystal fucking clear. If you want to know, and you're a female, if you want to know spiritual truth, email me. I'm not a chauvinist fucking pig. I have the utmost respect for women. If women want to be spiritually inclined, there's nothing holding them back any more than it is for a man. I think that women are 100% equal to men. And in fact, I've said this before. As a man, no matter how spiritually advanced you may become, at the best you can hope for is 50%. A woman has the other 50%. That's the whole point and purpose of marriage and stuff, is so that you are forced actually to work together as a union. Not one is not better than the other. And if you think you're better than the other one, well, then you diminish yourself and you never You never gain that knowledge and wisdom. Um, I have watched videos over the past several months trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this world. I recognized a trend probably close to 20 years ago where men and women weren't getting together as they used to decades and decades ago, like when I got married. And I recognized this trend, and I wanted to know what the heck is going on in this world and in this reality. And so lately I've been watching videos and trying to understand what the heck is going on. And basically it comes down to it's like men and women are commodities for the other sex. In other words, a man is looking at a woman as a commodity, and a woman is looking at a man as a commodity. In other words, and I'm only telling you what I see on video. A woman that is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful might look at a man and use her beauty as a commodity. In other words, a wonderful guy might come along and it's like, well, I'm not interested in him because he's not bringing to the table $1 million a year, or this or that or whatever. Maybe he doesn't work out enough, or whatever the case may be. She's looking at him as a commodity. And it's like, well, I'm not gonna marry him, and I'm not gonna give him sex and all that kind of stuff because he's not bringing to the table enough to make it worth my trouble. And a man is doing the exact same thing on the other side. That is such a horrible, horrible, disgusting, fucking horrible way to look at each other. I mean, these fucking people don't understand the first fucking thing about spirituality. It's so god dang fucking disgusting to look at a human being as a fucking commodity. Are you kidding me? For instance, if a woman is beautiful or ugly, I don't fucking care which way it is. Do they really think that fucking human body is theirs? Of course it isn't. The human body is just a fucking human body. It's like an animal. It's like if you got a bunch of fucking dogs running around and your spirit happens to be in one of them. It's like this story in the Bible of God where the spirits, story of God, I mean in the Bible, the story of the demons or the spirits he sent them into pigs. And it's like, okay, beautiful, gorgeous woman, do you look at yourself when you're a fucking pig? And I mean a animal pig, oink, 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 and all that stuff. Oh, I'm not going to give myself away to that rutting fucking pig because I don't think that pig brings enough to the table. And now you're a human being with a beautiful, gorgeous body saying the same fucking thing. Why do you think a human body is fucking gorgeous to God? Are you kidding me? Do you really think God is a man or a woman with arms and legs walking around? You don't understand the first fucking thing about spirituality if that's what you think. It's absolutely fucking crazy. Commodity. No. If you want to know how a relationship is supposed to be created and become one with God, and to learn and understand how to be married together and how to nurture and grow a true relationship the way it's supposed to be done, you don't look at the other fucking person as a commodity. You had better fucking not look at the other person as a commodity. You look at them as a friend. A friend. For instance, if I were a man and I'm looking at a woman, maybe in my heart and soul, maybe in my carnal mind and eyes, I'm going to reject certain women because it's like, they're not beautiful enough. That's the initial way all men are, purposefully, I guess. I don't know. But they would look at another woman and go, well, there's a range here. In other words, some people might go, 80% of women are acceptable, but 20% I'm not going to look at them and I'm not going to consider them no matter fucking what. They're just too damned ugly or fat or whatever the case may be. That's what most men are. And that's either good or bad or whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. That's just the way they look at it. Because women are the same way. But I have noticed over the years, certain women, for instance, that as a teenager, when I was dating, I would never consider, and then I've known these particular women as an adult over the years that I would never have chosen to be with. And now, and of course, they're not married because unfortunately they're not gorgeous and beautiful. And I look at them now as a neighbor or something and I'm going, how sad. I mean, that woman is beautiful in her heart and soul. She's a good person. And she's exciting because she does things and this and that and everything else. And it's like, wow, what a loss to have not, the guys that never considered her when they were younger. What a loss. And I'm sure the same is true in reverse. Big deal. My point being is, it's in the heart and the soul of the individual, and you look at them not as a commodity, but you look to them as a friend. But even as a friend, and I'm talking about opposite sex, as somebody that you might want to get married to, etc., etc., etc. When you look at them, it's not like a guy. It's like you can't have an opposite sex friend that you're going to get married to that's going to be exactly the same as the same-sex friend that you are actually friends with. Because, for instance, as a guy, I might go, hey, let's go dirt bike riding. When I was younger, I wouldn't do it now. Hey, let's go dirt bike riding and beat the hell out of ourselves going up in hills and crashing and everything. And then I might go to my girlfriend and it's like, hey, you want to go dirt bike riding? And she's like, no, fuck that. I don't want to do that. And it's like, oh, well, then to hell with you. I don't want you as my wife. No, that's the bad way of looking at it. Look at it differently. Recognize that I might like to go dirt bike riding, but she might like to cook, or she might like to sew, or she might like to do other things that, to me, it's like, get me out of this world. I don't want to do that. It's like fucking boring beyond belief. But what else do you like to do as a friend? Well, I will tell you something. I know I'm rambling, but I don't care because that's the whole point of this video. I am rambling. As a friend, as a spiritual connection, as from opposite sex, one way to test it, if it'll work, and this works for both male and female. In other words, and I'm saying opposite sex. I mean, this. I don't promote gay lifestyles. I think to me, it's detestable, but I don't hate and I don't look down my nose at gays and lesbians and stuff. I think they're making a horrible fucking mistake, but that's their prerogative. I'm not judging them as being evil or anything like that, because in other words, you can be gay and a lesbian, and in addition to that, be evil. That the fact that they're gays and lesbians doesn't necessarily make them evil. Maybe it does, but I don't think it does. Does that make sense? But anyway, the test. How do you test? It's pretty fucking simple. Go up to a woman. Now, you can't do this randomly because you got to know each other, by the way. I don't mean know each other because you've had sex. I mean know each other and you've talked to each other and stuff like that. No. You normally think, oh, well, I'll give her a passionate kiss. Fuck that passionate kiss. You can do that, but that's sexual. But what I'm saying is give her or him a hug and hold. I'm telling you something that is fucking weird because I don't have the knowledge to back it up. I have the experience to back it up, but I'm not into whatever. I have no idea what it is. Some of you watching this video probably know more than I know about it. But if you give a hug to the opposite sex human being, because you know each other personally and your friends and stuff like that, and you hug each other for 1 minute, 30 seconds, for a half an hour, whatever the case may be, there's something that it's like, I don't know what it's like plugging a cord into a light socket or something. There's some sort of, I don't even want to say energy, because I don't know what it is, honestly, but it is, but I do know what spiritual love is. And I'm telling you that when you do that, by the way, you can do it man to man and woman to woman too. I am not saying you can't do that. But what I am saying is male to female. And it's actually very common with everyone. It's like, it doesn't matter who you do this with. If they are a good person and you're a good person, you have to know if you're a good person. If you are a good person and you hug someone and you do it for an extended period of time, not just like that, but I mean like really a good hug closely, like pull them close to your chest. And you do that for, I'd say probably bare minimum of 20 or 30 seconds. But theoretically, the longer, the more you're going to prove it. If you feel this interior thing, it's like you're connecting with God or something. I don't even know what to call it, but you feel this thing, then you're going to know what I'm talking about friendship and stuff. And if you feel that and the other person feels it too, talk about it. Don't be silent. You do it and say, do you feel a spiritual connection? Do you feel this warmth? And if they go, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you better dump that fucking person. I don't care how sexually attractive they are or how wealthy they are or how... I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is that you, if you're a spiritual person and you're looking for a spiritual companion, you better dump that fucking person in a heartbeat. And actually, don't tell them the experiment before you do it. But hug try to do it for 30 seconds anyways. And if you don't feel it, then you know you're connected to another human being that isn't spiritually ready or worthy of that sort of thing. But if you do feel it, and then you have a talk with them, go, what do you feel when you hug? Ask them. Don't bait them, but ask them, do you feel anything there, or what is it? And if they go, I don't know, I guess not really. I don't know what you're talking about. Go, oh, okay, that's okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, get the fuck out of there, because you're dealing with a demon or who knows what you're dealing with, but you're certainly not dealing with someone that you should have a long-term relationship with, because, yeah, bad. I told you this video was going to be random crazy shit. What about the world? What's going on in the world? Here's an interesting thing. Like spirituality, I try to find out what's going on in the world too. And here's an interesting thing. You can go to the highest level of government that there is. You can go to think tank people with PhDs and I mean connections and everything. And they'll go, well, the world, or in the United States at least, they go, well, it's the deep state is running thing. Well, who's the fucking deep state? Or they'll say the cabal, the world cabal. Well, who the fuck is running the world cabal? Who's running everything? Like in the United States, you got a president with dementia and everything. Well, okay, well, if he's not running it, and clearly she's not running it, who the fuck is running everything? Oh, well, it's the deep state, they say. Oh, okay, well, who's the deep state? Blah, blah, blah. Well, this is true in every fucking country in the world, by the way. that is going through this process right now. I will tell you who's running things, but you're going to have to realize that I'll tell you who's running things, but you're going to think I'm crazy, but I don't really care. Satan is running everything. But the problem is you only get to like for instance, in the United States, you might get to the top of the CIA, or you might get to the top of the FBI or whatever, and you think that they're running things, but then you find out they're not really running things. So who's running things? And then you go down the ranks somewhere, and it's like, well, we're kind of listening to this individual. Eventually it goes dark because that particular person is now getting closer to Satan, and Satan through his individuals are running everything. And they use money to run the world. So yeah, that's who's running things right now. And of course, you can. When I say you, I mean any country can stop that. But the problem is, there's a vast majority of the population of the world are, they have that term. Is it NPC, non-playing character, or something like that? Most of the planet, they're either NPCs or they're created human beings. Well, not when I say created. The spirit in them is a created spirit from Satan. So in other words, they're not autonomous. The human beings are not, they don't have free will like you and I have. And they appear to have free will, but they don't really have free will. And then, of course, there are demons that actually do have free will, and they obviously choose Satan as their leader. And so, yeah, that's what's going on in the world, and that's what's running everything. And now I'm going to shift gears real quickly because I'm like in Crazyville. So here's the weird thing. This is for me personally, not for you. You probably haven't experienced things like me. But it's like if a person were a flat earther, for instance, you know what that term is, flat earther. If that person were to get into I guess it would have to be a rocket ship, because realistically you'd want to go at least 400 or 500 miles up to be able to look at the planet Earth and see that it's round. And then while you're doing that, go around it in all directions, so that you know that the planet Earth is not flat, that in fact it's round as a marble, basically. If you did that without losing consciousness, and you went up in this rocket and you were peering out the window the whole time and, blinking your eyes, but, looking and seeing, and you did the whole thing, when you return to Earth, you are no longer a flat earther. You would be going, yeah, I can't prove to you that the Earth is flat, but I can tell you from my own personal experience that the Earth is not flat. And so no matter what argument you use, it is meaningless to me, because I have experiential truth that the Earth is no longer flat. So that's where I'm at personally with spirituality, with enlightenment, with God, for instance, and stuff like that. I have the experience just as if you went up in a spaceship, and it's like it. So whatever excuses are used that, well, God doesn't really exist, or God doesn't do this or do, that's like a flat earther. Well, I absolutely 100% know that there is a God, and that this God does answer your prayers, and etc., etc., etc. I know this from personal experience. So I can't participate in some dumbass talk about, well, God isn't real. Enlightenment is the same thing. It's like, oh, I can't really participate in your dumbass conversation about, well, this is true, or this is the origin of the planet and everything else, and because I've seen it. When I say seen is as if you came back to Earth, but that's not true. With spiritual enlightenment, God enlightenment, you never came back. you can't come back, in other words. And I think that's where I'm shifting gears again. I think that's where people end up losing their mind sometimes when they get spiritually enlightened or get close to spiritual enlightenment. They can lose their mind because there's nothing left to grasp. There's nothing left to anchor yourself to. And if you are not spiritually strong enough to self-sustain yourself in a connection with God, you got nowhere. There's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing. There's no light. There's no gravity. There's no spirituality. There's absolutely nothing to exist. You might as well go to outer darkness or back to Brahman, because you don't have anything. And of course, the demons that promote non-duality and that kind of bullshit are hoping exactly that that's what will happen, that eventually you will become enlightened with the false belief of, or the when I say false belief, without the experiential knowledge that in fact there is a God. And then when you become spiritually enlightened, if you do not have that connection to God, yeah, you kind of go a little bit crazy, because you got no connection to anything. So what else do I want to ramble on about? Maybe that's it for today. My videos are getting, like, I think it's been 2 weeks since my last video, and I kind of enjoy making a video every week, but sometimes I don't know. I don't know. Ask me questions if you want to see more videos and stuff. But here's the thing. Tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like I've made videos about so many things that I don't want to rehash. Maybe I should rehash them. Maybe you want to hear the same thing over and over again because you don't have the experiential part of it. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, the reason I don't is because here's my personal experience. When I was a Mormon, I always thought, okay, well, in Mormonism, they have once a year, or actually it's twice a year, they have what they call General Conference. And so over the last, shall I say, 50 years or so, they actually connect to the different buildings through satellite. And of course, now it's just over the internet. And you can listen to their prophets and apostles give talks, etc., etc., etc. And 6 months go by, and I'm looking forward, like, what new does the prophet or the apostle have, and blah blah blah. And I'm looking for new truth or whatever, and you're never going to get anything new. I mean, mainly because they aren't real apostles and prophets. They're just they're either faking it, or they're just good people that never did get a connection to God. Because I was in it, and I wasn't a bad person. I mean, I did the very best I could, and I taught people, etc., etc., etc. And I was actually having spiritual experiences and stuff, but the vast majority in the church wasn't. And I was always looking forward to something new, and it never transpired. And it was like a letdown. It's like, if they call themselves prophets and apostles and they don't have absolutely anything new, I mean, it's the average kid in Sunday school is going to get the same damn information year after year after year after year with nothing new. And it's like, I always felt like, well, this is a shit and let down. It's like, it's just fucking horrible, because I'm always thirsty and hungry for more new knowledge and wisdom and spiritual truth. Maybe you're the same way. And so and it was never there. And so I had to look elsewhere, and I would pray and fast and all the things that eventually led to the spiritual things that I said about going up in a spaceship and watching the earth and all that kind of stuff. Those things actually happened for me. lastly, I actually did think about this a week or so ago. What I wanted to talk about, and so I might as well bring it up now. How do you know? How do you judge yourself if you're gaining some sort of spiritual traction? Well, for me, I was, I'm going to say I was lucky because being a Mormon, I was constantly engaged in going out and teaching because I worked, when I say worked, my calling in the church most of the time when I was there was in what they call stake missionaries, and I was in the mission field, and I was always teaching members of the church. When I say members, sometimes they were with non-members and stuff, and I was always being called to give blessings, meaning like to heal people that are sick and ill and stuff like that. And so I had experiences that most of you will never have in your life because you're not associated with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I was, because when you're involved in a church, a big church like that, you're around hundreds and hundreds of people. And if you're involved in those sorts of things, you have experiences that as a single person studying in your dark bedroom, blah, 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 and trying to figure out truths and all these kinds of things. You might figure out the truths, but you don't have the experience to back it up, because who are you going to bless? Who are you going to raise from the dead? Who are you going to be involved with in these things? Nobody. And so all you have is the knowledge without the experience. That is good in that you get the knowledge, but I think you kind of have to have the experiences to make it real to you. So I was lucky in that respect, that I had those experiences, and I mean, I look back on it and think, yeah, it was fun. It was very fun working with other beings, other people. I enjoyed myself. So I have that as an advantage that probably you do not, but that's okay. Recognize that we're not going to accomplish the exact same things in every life. And so getting back to the story I started with in the very beginning, I'm getting back to the thing that I was talking about a second ago. How do you know you're on the right track? You can do miracles. Don't be afraid to try to perform miracles. Don't be afraid. But I think this is my own personal experience. I don't know if it's exclusive, but I think you have to be asked. In other words, you can't go around blessing people to be healed from cancer and this and that and et cetera, unless they personally ask you. And then who's to say that you're going to give them a blessing to heal them? I mean, you just have to feel it and everything. But you will and you can experience miracles in your life, and look for opportunities to do that if that's what you want or need in your life. But if you have miracles happening in your life in that respect, yeah, you're no doubt probably on the right path, because your heart and soul is in the right place. In other words, evil people, Satan worshipers and stuff, they can have the same experiences, but they're not going to be watching my channel because they're not interested in the God that we pray to and love and worship. They have a different God that they pray to and worship. I won't say love because I don't know that they love. But anyways, I think that's it for now. I wanted to, I don't know why, I really don't know why I feel this. And I've, like I said, I've felt it for the past few weeks, probably for the past month or so. I don't even know why I'm feeling it, but I'm just going to say it. I'm reaching out to women. I don't know if any women are watching or not that don't have any connection to anyone in the world, spiritually speaking, and so they're isolated, for instance, and they don't feel comfortable contacting me in any way, shape, or form because I'm a man, and they don't want to. Well, it's just awkward to uh, say anything to a man if you're a woman and stuff. I mean, that's just the way society is and stuff. That's fine. Don't reach out to me if you don't feel comfortable. But I'm reaching out to you and personally and telling you that I love you just as though I love the men that watch this. I love you as Christ, as Jesus would love you. And I really do hope and pray for you personally. I don't know what it's like to be a woman in this life and in this reality. And so, but I have had my dear wife that for 50 years. And I do know that I have 2 daughters. And so I know that it's different. You have your own unique difficulties in this life. And yeah, that's just part of life. It's tough. It's double tough, especially if you don't have anyone to talk to that you can share these spiritual things with. But you can share them with God, and you can share them via Jesus if you want, or you can pray directly to Jesus. There's nothing wrong with that. If you pray to Jesus, just recognize that you're not praying to Jesus as he is your almighty God or whatever, because Jesus prays to his God. And oh, wow. Okay, last thing I wanted to cover. I've told you before, I've got this guy, Richard is his name. He's a Jehovah Witness, and he comes by every 3, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. And he's been doing this now for probably 2 years. And I made it crystal clear, not only once, but probably twice. I told him, I says, look, there isn't a cold A's chance in hell I'll ever join your church. It's never, ever going to happen. And in fact, the worst case scenario is you keep visiting me and you'll denounce your own church. But he texted me just last weekend and wanted to come by, but I was too busy at that particular time. So I was prompted to do some research. So I spent probably 5-6 hours researching the Jehovah Witnesses, and from their perspective, not from the antagonistic perspective. And I'm sure there's an endless supply of antagonistic research into the Jehovah Witnesses. But I looked on their own websites and did a bunch of study, watched a lot of their videos, etc., etc. Seems like they're a pretty good organization as a stepping stone. And Richard himself, what a wonderful guy. I'm telling you, you can feel it in his heart and soul. He's a good person. But do I think that the church is like as it's purported to be? Well, it is as it's purported to be. But the research I did on it is an interpretation of the Bible. Again, an interpretation of the Bible. And so they're not really saying they have a direct connection to God as if they were a living prophet, apostle, or et cetera, et cetera. They're just saying that they've interpreted the Bible to its perfect understanding and such. And that's their foundation that they rest upon. But that foundation is fake. It isn't real. And that is the problem with all religions and everything. It isn't real. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just isn't real. It isn't going to sustain you all the way to becoming one with God. At some point, you're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet. But I guess in closing, I will say, yeah, the Jehovah Witnesses seemed like it was a good, I don't know, it just seems like to me like a good organization with good people. At least the people I've met are really good. But my wife says I think everybody, everybody's good, so that's probably not a good indicator. Anyways, I love you. I really, really do hope and pray constantly for your spiritual well-being. Uh, the world is going through an incredible, difficult time right now, spiritually speaking. And we are teetering on the brink of total collapse. I don't think they intend it to be a total collapse, but because we're going towards a Marxist communistic trend, I think that if the United States does seal the deal in the next couple of months, boy, I don't think it's going to be very good for the entire world. It's going to be really, really fucking bad. But hopefully that won't happen. But it's not just here. It's everywhere on the planet that is so-called civilized. We're going through some extremely difficult times. Maybe because it's the end days. Maybe because who knows? Who knows? I don't know why. I'm not worried about it. It is what it is. It doesn't matter what happens. I have faith in God. And it's like, think about it. Nobody lives forever. I mean, I guess in closing, I've said this before, and I've said closing many times too. Nobody lives forever. If you're watching this video because you are spiritually inclined, this isn't your home, man. You're an interloper here, just like I am. This reality, this planet, this is for demons. This is their home. This is where they live. You could fool them, and for instance, they could think you're one of them, for instance, until it's like Jesus says, if you are a light, you don't put a candle under a bushel, etc., etc. Well, clearly, when you start telling the world that you believe in God and this and that and everything else, then they will realize that you're not one of them, and you're not going to be privy to the things of this world. In other words, that's why I say it's very difficult, if not impossible, to become wealthy in this reality, because the wealth is reserved for them, not you. And it doesn't matter how intelligent or hardworking you are. In most, like predominantly the most cases, you're not going to become wealthy. It's simply because you're not one of them, and they share the wealth amongst themselves. Now, do they know who they are? No, of course not. Just no different than, do you know who another spiritual person is that's just like you? Of course you don't. It's very difficult to discern that sort of thing. And they can't discern it any better than you can. They can't tell that, unless they do evil, terrible things, then they know. And I think that's why these things that are real, by the way, in Hollywood, and not only Hollywood, but in political circles, basically, they participate in, to you and me, it's disgusting things where they'll do real child sacrifices and shit like that. Well, that's just to prove beyond all doubt whether or not you're one of them. And then, of course, then they can share. And that's why when they call it the deep state, and you never know who the deep state is and stuff like that, because they're not going to divulge each other. I mean, they've all participated in sacrifices and shit like that. I mean, think about it realistically. oh, somebody's going to be telling, they're all deep staters. Well, how do you know? Well, because I also sacrificed and participated in death sacrifices and stuff like that. Nobody's going to admit to that. So that's why you don't know who they are. You're never going to know. They're not going to publicize that stuff to the other people. It's not going to happen. Anyways, now I'm really going to close. Thank you for watching. Not that I get anything for you watching. Not that I say, oh, subscribe and this. I don't give a shit whether you do subscribe or you don't subscribe. And I don't mean that in a negative way. In other words, if I were to say that and you're a spiritual person and you're going, well, if he doesn't give a shit, then fuck him. I don't give a shit about him. I don't mean it that way. And I'm sorry that it came across that way. What I mean is that I'm not looking to have anyone watch my videos that isn't spiritually wanting to be my friend, in other words. Now, will I say, well, I don't give a shit if you're my friend or not? No, I would never say that, because that's fucking horrible. I would say just the opposite. That's why I say thank you for watching this video. Because to me personally, do I want you to be my friend? Fucking A, yes, I do want you to be my friend. I will sacrifice everything for you to be my friend. I would give any... This is the same thing with Jesus. He hung on a fucking cross and died for you because he wanted to be your friend. And then you got to go a step above that. In other words, why did Jesus commit to this sort of thing? In other words, if the guy could walk on water and raise the dead, he could have vaporized the fucking cross, and everybody trying to kill him, he could have vaporized them fuckers too. And he didn't have to do that. He had the powers and the authority. He had telekinesis ability to move a fucking mountain, for God's sakes. He didn't have to submit to that humility of being hung on a cross and killed. He didn't have to do that. But he did because he loves you, and he's trying to send a powerful message to you that he loves you and that he values you for who you are. But then you have to take that a step further and go, well, if he did that, what's the next step above that, which is the God that he prayed to? That particular God allows his son, his Jesus, his friend, to die on a cross for the exact same reason Jesus did. That God loves you profoundly also. This bullshit that is taught, like, oh, well, God just kind of considers whatever, live or die or whatever. Are you fucking kidding me? That's the satanic teaching that's out there. No, God created this fucking universe, this planet, and everything because he loves you, not because he gets his jollies creating worlds and planets and all this crazy shit. No, he built it all and created it because he loves you. There's no other reason. He loves you that much that he created this and everything there is in existence because of you. And when you can realize that, then you can turn that back on God and have trust in that particular God and go, wow, if that God loves me that much, then maybe I should pay attention. And that's why when I tell you the same thing, I love you. I'm so grateful that you watch my videos. I'm doing it not because I'm being told to, not because I'm being admonished to, not because I'm being coerced into doing it or whatever. I'm doing it for the exact same reason that Jesus died on the cross. I'm doing it for the exact same reason God created this universe, because I feel the exact same love that they feel, and it's worth it to me to make a video to tell you that I love you, because you feel the same damn thing. You know you do. You wish and you pray and you search. Is there anybody in this fucking world that you can share your love with? And you can't find anyone. It's so difficult. So when you do find someone, You would give anything to have that same feeling of friendship, in love, etc. And it's so difficult to find it. And so that's why I tell you I love you. And that's why I say thank you for watching this video. And if I ever sent a fucking message that says, oh, I don't give a shit if you watch my videos or not, that would be super horrible. Just super horrible, because I'm sending the wrong message. So I find it disgusting to say, oh, well, subscribe to me and watch my videos, because it's like a money thing or whatever, and I find that fucking disgusting. But to say that I love you and I hope the best for you and thank you for watching my videos, that's a different way of looking at it. So there's the end of my rambling. I hope you have a good week, and I do love you, and I hope for your success in this world, and I hope you avoid terrible situations as best as possible, and I hope you learn spiritual truths, and I hope your answers to your prayers come to you, and I hope that you go out on the limb, for instance. Go out on the limb. What I mean by that is pray for miracles. Ask God to open your mind and heart and soul to receive visions and revelations and manifestations and any and all sorts of miracles and stuff. And have this prayer daily and expect miracles and blessings, because I have had them. There's no reason why you can't have them too. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.